Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about the top cards to side deck for December 2021, but this video is actually going to be pretty different than the previous side decking videos we've done. And the reason is because this side decking video is really based off of the top 2 deck lists from each of the nationwide nationals. So if you guys remember from a week or two ago, I did the worldwide national breakdown, and I used topdeckdiffusion.com. The link for that website will be in the description. Just a website created by an awesome group of French players, I believe, that just gathered all the different top decks from all the different regions nationals. So I looked through all those lists and saw a lot of the side cards that I found to be particularly interesting. These are not like the best side cards, but these are the most interesting side cards out of those different lists. And of course they're good because they were in, you know, winning nationals decks, right? And we're gonna talk about that in today's video, why they're good, why they're interesting, that kind of stuff. So again, Top Deck Fusion, huge shout out there in the description below. Anyways, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss a video. And if you guys want to help support the channel and you're planning on buying any of these cards we talk about in today's video, it would really help if you use my link in the description to TCG Player. Anyways, let's get started. Alright, the first card, and the one that I personally find most interesting, is Toa Twisted Sister. So this was sided in the first place Cell Surge list, as well as Jordan Markle's third place Cell Surge list from US Nationals. So what I find really interesting about this card is that it's drop area interruption, and the drop area has become a very, very important part of Dragon Ball Super, especially in competitive play. You have so many cards like Ribrianne, Sand Instincts, Koitsukai, all these different types of cards that work out of the drop area. But for some reason or another, drop area interruption has never really taken off as a popular side deck strategy. You have some like random decks like Shroom Salsa and Makikabora definitely being the more quote-unquote meta-relevant one of those two. But yeah, drop area interruption has never been a super successful sideboard strategy, right? So with that in mind, this card is a very simple counterplay, but the auto is where the rest of the effect comes in. So you can always just hard cast it without counterplaying, draw one, then shuffle up to one card in your opponent's drop back into their deck. So why is this really good? Well, I think it's particularly good in Cell Surge because if your opponent's siding Sand Instincts or other drop area types of cards, you can just play this, shuffle it back into their deck. Now they just lost that draw 2 that they were hoping to get because you pitched their hand, right? Where this also comes up is against Icarus, because you can send their 1-drop Higher Dragons back into their deck, basically making their leader less of a value powerhouse, which is only going to help you as the Cell Surge player, because that's just less cards they're going to be able to draw, you know, via their leader and via what their deck tries to do, right? So I think Toa Twisted Sister for now is probably only super good in Cell Surge, and I guess other hand control decks, like if you're playing starter Broly hand control or maybe even OG Broly hand control, that kind of stuff, it seemed just like a really good sideboard card to counter the hand control hate, if that makes sense. And that's really funny about hand control because there's so much hate for it out there, and we'll talk about some more hate in today's video for hand control, but hand control is still doing so well in the format, so it seems like it can just play through all of it. And one thing that hand control does is usually sideboard hate for the hate. Like BMS is the most popular sideboard against like Deborah Ritual at Hand and Gohan Trusted Ally, but now this is a new tool they have to counter like the drop area type of stuff, mostly like Sand Instinct. So that's pretty cool. I thought it was really interesting for that reason. Then we have Son Gohan Trusted Ally. So the main reason that I'm interested in this card is because when I was just walking around at US Nationals, and the first game I saw of, you know, the Universe Z guys, I'm pretty sure it was Andrew specifically, that I happened to just like catch one of his games while I was in between rounds, I saw that he was sideboarding this on top of Deborah and Sand Instinct. So Andrew and the Universe Z guys just wanted to be super prepped for Cell Surge. To the point where like we were testing and we had the idea to go Instincts, Deborah, and Gohan, but at the end of it we kind of thought it was a little bit too overkill, a little bit too much, and we wanted to like separate some side deck space for other matchups. But I mean, the fact that the national winnings deck in the US sided, I believe, was 10 cards for Cell Surge, and Gohan Trusted Ally is one of them, that just says a lot to me, where Cell Surge is a really scary deck in the format, but at the same time you do want a lot of cards to try and counter it. And obviously this card also came in clutch for Andrew up against Android 16 in the finals of US Nationals, where they're not pitching cards out of your hand like Cell Surge, but the few cards that they do pitch out of your hand, you're able to just replenish that from Trusted Ally and Deborah and Sand Instincts if you want to bring it in that matchup. The nice thing about that matchup too is that Android 16 can't really afford to bring in Dark Power Black Mass Sand like Cell Surge or other mono green hand control decks can. So this card's even more free in that type of matchup, but you do have to keep in mind that this card is weak to Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan. So if your opponent, you know, establishes that, you got to be careful about that. Then we have East Kai Keeping Watch, so a popular sideboard card in blue decks and red blue decks. So what's really cool about this card is that it's one of the few ways you can interact with your opponent when they're trying to play cards during your turn without having to rely on Koitsukai. Now, if you watch yesterday's deck profile, I was talking about Jiren, and there's this very specific interaction where Jiren can put Koitsukai in the drop area before ever having to attack. And that's kind of what makes Koitsukai very, very awkward in non-black, non-mill decks, is that you want to use it before your opponent gets the opportunity to use any of their body floodgate negates like Remeka Riposte, Topo Regis 8, stuff like that. If you missed your opportunity to combo Koitsukai defensively, you now have to attack to put Koitsukai in the drop, which will give them that opportunity if you don't have like a natural discard outlet. So the nice thing with this card in a blue or red blue deck, or any blue deck splash for that matter, is that you can just play it for one, it gets a draw, so it gets value, and then anytime your opponent wants to play a card during your turn, you get to, you know, make them bottom deck a card. So that's really, really good there. Pretty cool for blue decks, especially when Koitsukai was a bit more expensive, but now it's coming out Mythic Booster, so it should be a lot cheaper. But yeah, still just a really good card because it's on color, draws you a card, all that good stuff. Then we have Kibito Kai Opening Strike, which is actually in the first place list of Gogeta Xeno, which I believe was Oceania. So this card, what it does, a lot of you guys probably haven't seen it. So when this card's played, draw a card. If it's your turn, when this card is using a combo, if your opponent has 3 or less energy, choose one of your opponent's battle cards with 30,000 power or more and place it at the bottom of the owner's deck. So in comparison, there's actually a much older card. It's a Demigra card that is very similar. You combo it, you KO something ignoring barrier if your opponent has 3 less energy and the battle card's 30k or higher. But the difference here with Kibito Kai Opening Strike is, one, it can draw a card, which I don't think is the most relevant part, but you can just play it, draw a card, and combo it in a certain scenario. But the main thing here is that it puts the battle cards to the bottom of the owner's deck. So this can be really, really good against Sin Shenron, because you send the 9-drop back to the bottom of their deck, and now it's no longer revivable off their leader tap 6. So that's just one scenario I can think of. I am very, very curious, though, if this came up in other scenarios. The one kind of unfortunate thing is that this card, again, compared to that Demigra, like if you're playing against Sin, which is a tough matchup for Gogeta Xeno, if they have the 8-drop Omega Shenron, they copy Oceanus to be a barrier blocker, this can't really deal with that, so that's a bit rough. So yeah, I do wonder if this was used in other scenarios and other matchups for that bottom deck significance. That would be pretty interesting to know about for sure. Then we have Max Power Kamehameha. So this is a card that actually, like when we were testing, again, me, Danny, Marcus were heavily testing the Golden Frieza deck, as well as testing with our other teammates. Max Power Kamehameha was a card that we realized that kind of like the last minute, the last week before Nationals, we really wanted to fit somewhere in our sideboard because it's so versatile. There's just like, it's kind of like the name of Dragon Ball Super at this point, where decks are just cheating out really big battle cards, whether it's a 3-drop on turn 1 or a 9-drop on turn 2. Your opponent's typically going to play battle cards that are higher energy cost than their current amount of energy. So Max Power is a very, very versatile card for that reason. So I think this is going to become a much more of a generic, like really, really versatile staple. Whereas I feel like the past couple top side deck videos I've done, a lot of the cards are definitely on repeat. But Max Power has kind of been out of that conversation for a while, but I feel like Max Power is going to come back into that kind of rotation because of how generically good it is and how many matchups it's applicable against. So for you guys, this is definitely going to be one of the top ones I'm going to recommend considering for your sideboard, because it's just so versatile, so good in so many different matchups. Then we have Deborah Darkness Perfected. So this is a card that I've liked a lot in black, and this is actually sideboarded in the first place Hachiyak list. And it's really good because it's a counterplay in black, whereas black doesn't really have a ton of great counterplays that offer a lot of interruption. But Deborah is really good in the scenarios where he's really good. So basically you have to be using him on a card that has either an activate main or an attacking auto, because unfortunately he won't stop enter play autos. But yeah, like Supreme Kai Time Space Time Unraveler is a pretty good example of a situation where this can be really good, because your opponent can't get that board wipe effect if they're looking to do it all in one turn. They just can't do that, which is really nice. You also have like maybe a Black Mirror match, for example, against SS4 Gogeta Thwarting Dark Empire, even SS3 Gogeta Thwarting Dark Empire. You're both preventing that attack and that skill from activating that's going to warp part of your board. So this is a really good card. I have thought about this even in Gogeta Xeno decks, to be honest. I think there are some scenarios where this can be solid, but yeah, of course in a black control like Hachiyak, this is incredible. Also, if you're a Machikabura player or even maybe a Shroom Salsa player, this is a card you'll want to consider because it's very, very good in those like mid-rangey sort of control-y black decks, whereas Gogeta can be mid-rangey in my opinion, but definitely teeters a bit more towards aggro, so you might want to dedicate the energy to other things besides just Deborah Darkness Perfected. Then the final card for today, guys, we have Baby Vengeance Unleashed. So this was in a second place launch list, and I'm definitely very curious as to why. The main reason I can think of, but I would be very surprised if this was the reason. But basically what you can do with this is you can play this card, and if your opponent's playing Android 21 or some sort of tokens spamming deck, mostly the 21 or 18 decks that put tokens on your board, this can just absorb all the tokens in one fell swoop, because you get to choose just any battle card and place it under, and then the rest of the effect fizzles, but you get to just keep absorbing tokens with this effect, which is kind of interesting. So maybe the launch player was afraid of some sort of like Android 18 mill. I kind of doubt they were thinking about actual Android 21, which is funny because it managed to top 8 US nationals. But yeah, this definitely seems like a decent counter to that Android 18 mill strategy, which is typically red blue, sometimes like red blue yellow. But yeah, guys, those are the cards that I found most interesting from the worldwide national events. Let me know in the comments below if you look through Top Deck Diffusion, see some stuff that interested you. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.